To kick off our large unit on factoring, we are first going to start by reviewing how to factor quadratic trinomials. Let's take a look at a few easy examples. The first one here, we have x squared plus 7x plus 12. And if you remember, in order to factor a quadratic trinomial, you will end up with two binomials. And obviously here we would start with x times x in order to end up with x squared. But to figure out the two other missing terms, we need to figure out what multiplies to 12 and adds up to 7. So think of everything that multiplies together to give you 12. There's 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. Of everything that multiplies together to give you 12, the only combination that adds up to 7 are 3 and 4. So here we would have x plus 3 and x plus 4. Those are the factors of x squared plus 7x plus 12. Same thing on example 2 over here. Again, we have x squared minus 7x minus 44. We're trying to figure out what we multiply together to end up with this quadratic trinomial. Clearly, we would start with x times x in order to end up with x squared. But for our other two terms, we need to know what multiplies to negative 44 and adds up to negative 7. So start by thinking of everything that multiplies to negative 44. Here we're going to have one positive number and one negative number. It could be 1 and negative 44 or negative 1 and positive 44. Let's see, 2 times negative 22 is negative 44, or negative 2 and positive 22. 3 doesn't go into 44, 4 does. 4 times negative 11, or negative 4 and positive 11. Now, out of all of these combinations, what would add together to give you negative 7? That would be the 4 and negative 11. So we would have x plus 4 and x minus 11. Those are the factors of this quadratic trinomial. Now, the first two examples were pretty easy because we were working with a plain x squared. What makes these two different is instead of a regular x squared, we have a coefficient in front of x. So here we have 2x squared plus 3x minus 35. There's a couple different methods that you could use to do this problem, but the one that we've covered in class is if you have a leading coefficient other than 1, if you have something in front of that x squared, take it and multiply it to the very end. So this thing will become x squared plus 3x minus 70. Now it looks the same as the previous two problems, and we're just figuring out how to factor this expression. So we would start with x times x, and then we're going to ask ourselves what multiplies to negative 70 and adds up to positive 3. So we can make a list of everything that multiplies together to give us negative 70. There's 1 and negative 70, or negative 1 and positive 70. There's 2 and negative 35, or negative 2 and positive 35. I don't think 3 goes into 70. I don't think 4 goes into 70. I'm sure 5 does, but I'm actually thinking of one off the top of my head. I'm thinking 10 times 7. So either negative 10 and 7 or positive 10 and negative 7. That's a combination that comes to mind pretty quickly. And here, the positive 10 and negative 7, I know, would add up to positive 3. So we're going to have x plus 10 and x minus 7. Now, I'm not done yet because this was not my original problem. In the original problem, I had multiplied by 2. So now I'm going to undo that. I'm going to divide by 2. So 10 divided by 2 is just 5. So this one's x plus 5. That's easy. The other side, though, 7 divided by 2 is going to be a decimal. You're not allowed to use decimals. So what you do is you just pop that denominator up in front of the x. This would become 2x minus 7. And that would be your answer. All right, let's try another one of those. So over here we have 5x squared minus 22x plus 8. Again, if you have that coefficient in front of x squared. It's making your problem a little bit more challenging. So what we're going to do is we're just going to send it right on to the very back. That's going to be x squared minus 22x plus 40, because 5 times 8 is 40. Okay, now this one we can factor pretty quickly here. We know to start with x times x in order to get that x squared. And then we need two numbers that multiply to 40 and add up to negative 22. In this case, I know we're working with two negatives because I know a negative times a negative is a positive. Let's think here. What would make sense? 20 and 2. 20 times 2 is 40. 20 plus 2 is 22. If I make both of them negative, a negative 20 times a negative 2 is still a positive 40, and negative 20 plus negative 2 is negative 22. Now, I'm not quite done because remember I multiplied by 5 at the very beginning. So to undo that, I am going to divide by 5. 20 divided by 5 is 4, so that's going to be x minus 4. But on the other side, 2 divided by 5 cannot be simplified, so we're just going to scoot that 5 up there to the front. So that would be 5x minus 2.